Let's go, girl.
Just tell me that I can and I'll show you things that you couldn't believe.
It is WTF, Women Talking Football. Not to be confused with WFT. We are a pair of producers for Dave Campbell's Texas Football and Dave Campbell's Texan Live. We're the women. I forgot to say that. That's a very important part of this show.
We are, in fact, women.
We are, in fact, women. Contrary to popular belief, we are women. I am Ashley Bickle, the executive producer for Dave Campbell's Texas Football and Dave Campbell's Texan Live. Sitting over there, running the show today, looking very fall, is Miss Mallory Hartley, our associate producer. I love your outfit. I told you that when you walked in.
I'm wearing a little, I guess it's like a dress. It's considered a dress.
Yeah.
But it's a little short, so I have to wear like pants under it. But it's a nice little orange pumpkin fall type look. I was like, it's like 60 degrees out today, so
it was 45.
Yeah, well, like it's freezing. So I was like, I'm gonna wear it.
I was on the phone this morning and with my boyfriend, and he's down in Houston, so he was talking about he was like, oh, it's like 50 something here. I was like, it's freezing, you know. He's like, no, it's not. And I like pulled up my phone and I was like, no, it legitimately feels like it's 44 degrees outside. I was like, I know I over exaggerate the cold, but it was legitimately cold this morning. It felt like it was 44. That's cold.
I woke up this morning at 5 o'clock to go do my workout.
Because you're a psychopath.
I stepped outside and I was like, oh, it's a little chilly. So I had to go grab my jacket because when I work out, I wear leggings and I wear a tank top because I get hot, especially during my cycle classes. And I was like, man, I got to wear a jacket today because it's a little chilly. I only wore it for a couple seconds because I got warmed up quickly. But yeah, I needed a jacket this morning. It was.
I guess we can peel back the curtain because it's actually not going to be this cold when we run this show.
Good point.
It's Tuesday. We're recording this show on Tuesday. The reason being is we are headed down, a group of us. Mallory is unfortunately not able to go because you will be at a wedding this weekend. Congratulations to the bride and groom, but the rest of us on the editorial staff, I believe it's me, Step, Tep, and Ish are heading down to the RGV. We're flying out tomorrow, so we're recording a ton of our shows today because basically our whole crew is going to be gone all week. Mallory will be back here playing all the shows, thank goodness. Like, it actually worked out well that you're sitting here.
Because we can like not skip a bunch of shows this week and we can still get our dues in by recording early.
If you're watching this, it's airing during the normal time of TFT. So if you're a normal TFT viewer and you've never heard of Women Talking Football, we do this show every single Thursday, normally at 2 o'clock. But we're excited to have y'all joining us. We're women, we talk football, and that's what we do. So on today's episode, this is episode 15 of Women Talking Football. We are headed down to one of my favorite places in the state. We're going to the 210, the greater San Antonio area, and we're actually going to the 210, and we're going down to our region called South Texas. We've never done a show where we've combined regions, but to pull the curtain back a little bit, we are trying to get every single region of the state done by the time the state championships roll around. So then that way we can be done and then start implementing our off-season plan that we have. We have a lot of good stuff planned there. But that means we were going to have to combine a couple of regions. So what we've done is we've taken the San Antonio area and we're also combining it with the South Texas area, which is the greater Laredo area. That's a very, very small region. So we wanted to go ahead and kind of morph it together. We understand that those are two very geographically different areas, but it worked out best for us to be able to combine those two. And two, honestly, sometimes Laredo and San Antonio teams, when it comes playoff times, they're always playing each other. And some of them are even in the same district.
Yeah, it kind of overlaps.
So it's like, even though that's a long distance, it worked best. So we will we'll do the Huddle Up. We will hear from my man Jorts, David Hinojosa, with the San Antonio Express News, one of our favorite members of the Texas high school football media mafia. And then in the back half of the show, we're going to break all that down for y'all. So we are excited, and we'll get going here. We'll start off with the Huddle Up.
The Huddle Up. And we need a little intro to that. Oh, I'll work on that. We need a cute little intro to
we do.
The Huddle Up. It's kind of funny.
The Huddle Up. So It is week 9 of the Texas high school football season. There are 17 total weeks. So basically, if you want to talk about the regular season, we're almost done. There's only 11 weeks of the regular season. But if you expand that out to the full length of the 17-week Texas high school football season, the 17th week, of course, being state week, we're basically we are halfway done.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we are actually at the halfway point, not just the regular season halfway point. So we wanted to go back and forth and talk about some of the best games that we've seen thus far. Some of them will be college football games. Some of them will be high school games. But we can start off, I think, collectively with the game that we saw this weekend.
Yeah. We, if you don't know or didn't see our Twitter post, we went over to Fort Worth this weekend, and we got to see the TCU and Oklahoma State game, which was already such a highly rated matchup going into the game because both teams were ranked, I think, in the top 15. I don't remember exactly what team was ranked above who or whatever, but both teams were essentially in the top 15, and it went into double overtime, which was, we couldn't have asked for a better game to go see in person. To me, there was one point in the game, and it was early on in the game, and this was just after Spencer Sanders' second rushing touchdown, so that put Oklahoma State up 14-0 over TCU. And I looked at you, and I was like, dude, this might be over.
It was like is this going to get bad? As you also said, right before the game started, you go, I wonder what Spencer Sanders we're going to get. And it was like, I don't know. And it almost didn't even seem, for the first part of the game, it was like every other play was a different Spencer Sanders. Like,
it's because it's so hackle and jive with him. I mean, you can, at one game he'll look fantastic. He'll throw 5 touchdown passes, 0 interceptions, and then the next he'll throw 3 touchdown passes and 4 interceptions. It kind of just goes game by game, even play by play, like you said. So we were like, I don't know which one we're gonna get. Well, he turned on the Jets really quickly in that game, and he showed out his speed, and Oklahoma State was up to a 14-0 start early in the first quarter, and I didn't think TCU was gonna be able to come back from that just because they hadn't really in the season. But sure enough, they did. I think they took their first lead going into, it was already in overtime because they tied it up towards the end to push the game into overtime.
Right.
So they literally took their first lead in the entire game. TCU did in overtime. Which made it so cool. And then they ended up pulling out the win there. But it was a fantastic game to see in person. The weather was not super bad. It was about probably low 80s. We sat in the sun for most of it, so we got a little bit of sun to us. Yeah. A little bit red. But other than that, I mean, it was a fantastic way to spend a Saturday.
Oh, yeah. That's one of those games where you're hoping, we hyped it up so much in our heads. We're like, this could be the Big 12 champion, like a preview of the Big 12 championship game. This is an outstanding quarterback matchup. Like, these two teams pair up well together. It was a 2:30 kick, so it's like perfect football in the fall, and we were really excited. And when a game like that lives up to the expectation that you were holding in your brain, it was like we left that going, that's exactly what we were looking for. That's exactly what we wanted out of that game, and hopefully we get to see part 2 of that game with TCU in the Big 12 championship.
Yeah, and before we move on, I think the Big 12 is so up in the air, which is super exciting right now because you just don't know between TCU, Oklahoma State, Kansas State, Texas. I mean, any one of those teams, Texas Tech, throw them in the mix. Any one of those teams could potentially play for a Big 12 championship, which is super exciting.
Yeah,
so we'll see.
It was big time for the Frogs.
Yes, big time win for the Frogs.
So that was really exciting. I'm going to throw it down to the next game that so far for me has continued to stick out in my mind as one of the best games I've seen was back in week 1, actually. Crazy enough to say, when myself, Ish, Step, Jorts, David Hinojosa, who we're going to talk to in a little bit, we were all there in the 2-1-0. Gabe Brooks was there, and we went to the triple header at the Alamo Dome, the KSAC Classic, which was just unbelievable. I mean, all 3 of those games were insanely amazing. Ish and I did not stay for the last one on the day, which was just as good. That was Steele and Brennan, I think. But we did go to Johnson and Judson. And that was a banger. We'll talk a lot about San Antonio Johnson coming up in a little bit. We'll talk about both those teams coming up in a little bit. But Johnson ended up losing 43-46. But it was a great coaching matchup with Mark Soto and TP Miller. Obviously, Miller, that was his mentor forever. And so to get to see them go off, and it was Soto's first game back at his alma mater as the head coach in Judson. And that's where we got on the Ty Hawkins train, which is Johnson's sophomore quarterback. I won't ruin it all, but that game was outstanding. If I had to put my finger on like the best high school game I've seen thus far in the year, it actually happened that Saturday in week 1, which is crazy to think about.
That's crazy. Yeah, that's wild. I'll give you another one. I'll give you another triple overtime at the Alamo Dome.
Yeah,
however, this one's in college.
Handing out doves.
This one's in college. Yeah, I always get this mixed up. It was week 1 of the season, but it was my second college game of the season because I went to
week 0.
I went to UTEP and UNT week 0. So this was week 1 of the season. Houston comes into the Alamo Dome, goes into triple overtime to play UTSA. UTSA was up like 21-7 at one point, so it was like, dang, UTSA might pull this out over a team that's moving to the Big 12 eventually, and Houston ended up coming back. The game went into triple overtime. What is it with the Alamo Dome and triple
I don't know,
man. But if you have not been to the Alamo Dome for a high school game or a college game, get down there because the atmosphere is just electric, and it's got to be hard to play in there, if you're like the home team. I mean, it's just so loud in there. But yeah, good games happen in the Alamo Dome. So
the other thing that I love that the Dome does, and this was definitely not the case when y'all were there for the Houston game, but for the high school games, they will put up a curtain on the top level, so if they're not selling tickets there, it makes it look like it's full. Instead of leaving it to where like, we're not selling tickets, but we're not going to allow people up there, but we're not going to block it off. Then it's like, okay, when you're taking pictures from the press box and stuff, then it's like, it doesn't really look that full, but they block it off to where it's a black curtain, so it looks like it's full. Love that.
Yeah, that's cool.
And the one other game that I want to mention, another game that went into overtime. We tend to like overtime around here. In week 2, Ish and I saw Wichita Falls, Hershey, and Brock. That one ended up going into overtime. Hershey ended up winning it 37-30, I believe. Let's see. Yeah, 37-30. That one was an absolute blast. You want to talk about perfect weather that day too.
Yeah, you got some good pictures at the game too, didn't you? Yes. Didn't you take some pictures at the game and videos? And a lot of D1 recruits on that Hershey team. They've got the 2 kids. One of them's committed to USC, so that was cool. But yeah, those are probably the top 3 best games that I've seen so far. Like halfway through the season, we kind of wanted to do like a mid-season update. Yeah, those are my 2 college games. If I were to pick a third, I think this one might be a little underrated, but I really liked going to Frisco Wakeland and Frisco Lone Star just because I think that Lone Star all year we thought they were going to be really good. We thought they were going to be at the top of the district, and then they come out and lost pretty big time to Wakeland. Wakeland looked really, really good. That one was at the Star, so that one did not go into overtime, but it was still a really good game because I think it was just an unexpected outcome for Wakeland to win that game. So
and I was pumped for you on that one to, like you said, get a pulse on Lone Star because we didn't really have a pulse on either, because Wakeland made the unbelievable run last year. You remember they knocked off Highland Park in the area round of the playoffs, so it was kind of like, as when I remember you asking like, which game do you like? You had 2 games, and I was like, go to that one because those are like 2 of the teams that can kind of start sneaking up on. Lone Star's always good, but especially Wakeland, I was like, this would be a really good game to get a pulse on, like, okay, what are we looking at going forward?
Right, they seem to turn on the Jets come playoff time, so yeah, for sure.
So there you go. We wanted to do a little mid-season update of some of the best games that we've seen. We are excited. Obviously, we're getting into the best half of the year. I don't think anyone's going to argue, but people look at it as 3 seasons, and this week, week 9, is literally the best week of high school football that we will have that's not in the playoffs. It's the best regular season week. I mean, there are games all over the place. So we'll put out the top 10 DCTF games to watch, and if make sure to go to TexanLive.com too, because we're broadcasting 81 different games, not all football games, a lot of playoff water polo and stuff too, but we have a ton of bangers on Texan Live this week, so TexanLive.com.
And if you don't know much about water polo, go watch some, because it's a really fun sport to watch.
Cool.
There's constant energy, constant motion, which me personally, I like that.
Oh, yeah.
So go watch some water polo. It's really good.
Well, and you want to see like a good level of athleticism.
Oh my gosh.
My God. I don't know how they do
touch
it.
the ground.
No.
They swim the whole time, and I love swimming, but I need to be touching the ground at some parts because I don't have the capacity to stay alive.
Man.
I know.
All right. Well, tons of water polo, so get there. But let's get back to some football. Before we bring in David Hinojosa from the San Antonio Express News, let's hear from our good buddies at VCR Now. Born and bred in Texas hits a little different, as it should. Texas loves doing business with fellow Texans. VCR Now takes its Texas roots as seriously as its many partnerships with schools and universities around the state. It's also why we're so proud to promote our brand in the pages of the Texas Bible, Dave Campbell's Texas Football, and on the airwaves of Texas Football Today. Driven by producing quality broadcast video, state-of-the-art audio, and LED video scoreboards at affordable prices, VCR Now makes sure to listen to your needs in its athletic department before recommending the next best steps. Building great products is our business, and it's our focus on building meaningful, long-term partnerships with our clients that sets us apart. From our 24/7, 365-day help desk, the training lab in our hometown of Red Oak, or our sports marketing business plan that puts money back in the hands of our athletic departments we support, VCR Now is built to last. Reach out to us today at info@vcrnow.com or by calling 855-GO-VCR-NOW. Again, that's info@vcrnow.com or by calling 855-GO-VCR-NOW. Mal, let's head on over to the hotline. And we will bring in, most notably, the leader of Jorts Nation. That's actually like the most important things he brings to the table. The second thing is something that I don't necessarily like about him, and it's the fact that he's living in the 210 and he's a Mavs fan. So that part is a downgrade there. But we'll bring in a sports writer for the San Antonio Express News, one of our favorite members of the football media mafia, Mr. David Hinojosa. Jorts, how are you, man?
I'm good. How are you guys doing? And actually, I'm wearing my Mavs hoodie today. It's a little cool.
Let's go.
Gosh.
I love
hope
that.
You get just the worst mean looks in San Antonio because the best team in the world is right down the road from you, and it pains me. But anyway, before I start making this about the Spurs, George, give us we like to give people an opportunity to tell us a little bit about themselves. I know that you've been all over the place, but give us a little bit of an elevator pitch as to how you ended up back in the 210.
Well, let's see. I'm from Edinburgh, so I'm from the Rio Grande Valley. So I graduated there a long time ago. I graduated from Edinburgh High School when Edinburgh was a one high school town, to kind of give you some perspective. Wow. And actually, where Robert Vela is physically located, that's the old Edinburgh High School, and that's where I went to school. So the actual where Edinburgh High School is located right now, I never went to school there, so it's kind of interesting. And actually, I covered Robert Vela when he was the coach over at Ed Couch-Elsa and at Edinburgh High School. And just one other Robert Vela note from my standpoint. When I was at Edinburgh Junior High in 8th grade, he was one of the coaches there, and he was my health teacher. So
that is too cool.
So from Edinburgh, I went to University of Texas for a couple of years. I ended up graduating from Texas Pan American. I started out stringing games at the Edinburgh Daily Review in 1992, I think it was. That's when Edinburgh North started varsity football, and they needed someone extra to cover games, and that's where I started. From there, I went to the McAllen Monitor in 93, and then in 2000, I went to the Dallas Morning News. I worked there for 8 years, and then the newspaper bubble burst.
Right.
I got laid off. I was unemployed for about 9 months. Ended up going back to McAllen at the Monitor where I started. I worked there for 4 years. I went to grad school. I got a master's degree at Texas Pan American. And then how I ended up in San Antonio was just kind of out of the blue, kind of like I don't know. It's just one of those things that I never expected it. It was a job that wasn't posted. I got an email from Lauren Chan, who at the time was the lead high school writer and kind of the de facto high school editor. Mm-hmm. And I was familiar with Lauren from just covering stuff, state stuff. I didn't know him that well, but I used to post all my stories on Facebook, and we're Facebook friends. and he emailed me and asked me if I was interested. They were going to have a job there. He asked me if I was interested in it. He thought I would be good for it. And just long story short, I about a month and a half later, I'm loading up a U-Haul and I'm heading to San Antonio. Didn't, you know, I didn't apply for it. I mean, the job wasn't posted. It was kind of a low key deal, and yeah, you know, at that time before it happened, I was thinking about just getting out of the business. I just, you know, when you go from Dallas back to where you started, you know, you kind of question whether or not this is something you should be doing. Mm-hmm. And I guess, you know, not to get too corny or sappy here, but you know, I think Garth Brooks has that unanswered prayer song, and it's kind of like I needed to go back home to kind of get some perspective. And then just to be back up here was amazing. It's amazing, and I'm just loving it here in San Antonio. I've been here. This will be my 10th year. If I'm in my 10th year covering sports here in San Antonio, it's the longest I've ever been in one spot. And I'm just really lucky and I'm happy here. So, and it's really helped me from a lot from my mental standpoint, and just, you know, obviously just getting to cover all sorts of sports here in this great city is amazing.
Man, thank God for Facebook. That is too cool. We are glad that ended up working out the way that it did, because we love reading your stuff down there. Now, like you said, you've been down there for 10 years. There's a lot of really good football in the 210 area. To start off big here, big picture, when people around the state of Texas hear San Antonio, what should be the big storyline that kind of comes to their mind heading into the back half of the season?
Well, I think when people ask me that, or, you know, I think that the way that I like to approach that is I like to talk about the teams that are really standing out. And the two that are head and shoulders above everyone is Steele and Brennan. They are by far the best teams we have down here. And I'll get into this in a little bit here, but they might fall victim as to where they end up in the bracket, because I think they might both go Division I. I know Brennan's going to go Division I for sure. Mm-hmm. And then Steele, you know, there's a little bit of a mess there in 27-6A, and I can get into that here in a little bit. But, you know, you have Westlake and Lake Travis, and I think they're locked into Division I, and they're in Region 4. So that's going to be tough. But they are the best teams in San Antonio. Brennan made it to the state quarterfinals last year. They lost to Westlake in that game, but they got everybody back. They have a kind of a senior loaded team. They're 6-1. They lost to Steele in the season opener by 1 point. Steele won that game like in the last seconds. But Ashton DeBow is a quarterback. He was our offensive player of the year last year. He's having another great season. He's passed for almost 2,000 yards. He has 21 touchdowns, doing a great job. And they got a great receiving core with Aaron Carter, Aaron DeBow, who's Ashton's twin, and then Armando Acevedo, who's a high jumper, and he's a guy that can really kind of high point the ball. He's very athletic. So that offense is moving. They're scoring a ton of points. They kind of had a bit of and they are by far the best team in 29-6A, although Warren kind of gave them a little bit of a game. They beat Warren 33-30. Warren scored 13 points in the fourth quarter, so they kind of had to hold them off there. It got a little dicey there. But Brennan's is dominating that district, and they should, and they're, you know, with the schedule they have remaining, they should close it out. And on the defensive side, they have a guy by the name of Tyler Turner. He's committed to Oregon. He's kind of a hybrid guy. He plays linebacker, defensive back. He's good in run support. He can do pass coverage, and he's a returner. So he's just a great all-around athlete. So they're a senior team. I think if you know they can put it all together. Maybe, you know, who knows what they can do, you know, but they have the experience. And, you know, Tyler's a 4-year starter. Ashton's been on varsity for 4 years. So, I mean, these guys have played a lot of varsity games. Steele is kind of on the opposite end. They're 7-0, but a lot of their big offensive guys are sophomores. Their quarterback, Chad Warner, is really, man, that guy is, man, you wouldn't, I mean, if you just looked at him and just the way that not only the way he plays, but the way he plays with a lot of poise under pressure. He's really come up in some big situations. He passed to when they beat Steele in the season opener, he passed to Royal Capel, another senior, with 18 seconds left. That kind of lifted him to the victory there, which, you know, it was an amazing play. And I think Ashley, you may have been there for that. So
yeah,
saying that. So yeah, that was, and then those two guys are sophomores, and they have another sophomore, Jalen Cooper. He's doing well, and they have a couple of other senior receivers, Joe Pettis and Ed Marion Cotetas. The one thing about them, that receiving core, they're so good at stretching the field. That's allowed a guy like Jaden Bailey at running back, a senior. He has over 1,000 yards and 19 touchdowns. They are really able to stretch the field for him, and Jaden's such a good inside runner. And when you kind of can get those linebackers to float out a little bit, he doesn't need a whole lot to get going. So that Steele's really got it working really well there. I think they're set up for a couple of years. And I think if they can somehow, and it's, there's a lot to be said, there's a lot to be determined here, but if they can somehow sneak into that Division II bracket, I don't really know what needs to happen. I think they can make a really significant run.
And David, you just mentioned pretty much our next question, which teams do you think are going to make a deep run in the playoffs? Now let's switch to the other side. Which teams do you think that might not currently be ranked in the state rankings could surprise people come playoff time?
Well, one team that I like, but one team I think is getting overlooked, and I think they should be in your top 10. It's Smithson Valley in 5A Division I. Smithson Valley is they're one of the teams. They got aligned from 6A to 5A, and they are just they have one. They're 6-1. They have one loss to Clean Harker Heights, which I think is 6-1 right now. But they are just dominating their district. They are in district. They're in Region 3. Let's view it that way. But they're dominating their district. They have 2 shutouts, and they've only allowed 16 points in 4 games. They shut out New Braunfels Canyon to begin district play. New Braunfels Canyon can score points, and they shut them down. They have a great linebacker by the name of Gavin Woods. He's a very aggressive player. They like to blitz him, and he just doesn't miss a whole lot of tackles. He's on it all the time. And they also have an offensive lineman by the name of Colton Tomlinson. He goes about 6'8", 325, and he's about 1,000,000% committed to Texas A&M. I see him on Twitter trying to get people to go with the Aggies. Trying to persuade them, but they're really good. And the only thing is they are in Region 3, and College Station is in that region, and that also goes through the Houston schools. So I don't know, but Smithson Valley, most of those guys on that team are battle tested because they were in 27 6A with Judson, with Steele. They have faced the best teams and the best players from San Antonio. So I don't think so there's no intimidation there if they do make a deep run. I think they can. They're one of those teams that I think can really sneak in there and do a good job. And then I think Alamo Heights is. I don't know if you guys have Alamo Heights ranked, but they're a team. They're 6-1 now. I'm going to be very careful with them because they lost to Seguin to open the season, but they didn't have all their players with them, if you know what I mean. So, but they are a very good team. We had them as our preseason number 1. They lost to Liberty Hill in the regional final last year, and I kind of think they're going to meet again in the playoffs, and I think the winner of that game, whenever they do eventually meet, will probably end up winning the region. And then, of course, you have good old Poth in 3A Division II. They have a 1-point loss to Shiner. They're kind of one of those teams that just has a great regular season, and they're always good to go about 3-4 rounds, and we'll see if they can make a breakthrough this year.
Now, you've already mentioned a couple of names that we should keep an eye on, especially San Antonio Brennan's safety, Tyler Turner, probably one of the best safeties in the state. Are there any other players that you think that we should keep our eyes on, or you think are going to make some noise come playoff time?
Well, I don't know about come playoff time, but come college time.
Right.
There's a guy by the name of the running back by the name of James Peoples from San Antonio Veterans Memorial. He is kind of come out of nowhere. I guess he has 98 rushes for 1,148 yards. That's about almost a 12-yard average. He has 18 touchdowns. Last week he rushed 13 times for 274 yards, 4 TDs. He rushed for 216 yards in a loss at Liberty Hill, and he opened up the season 2 weeks ago. He rushed for 378 yards, 5 touchdowns against Lockhart. And he opened up the season against Harlandale. He rushed 9 times for 225 yards and 4 touchdowns. He's a guy that has, when I say come out of nowhere, he is a year ago. I did a feature on him about a month ago, and I asked him about, were you even thinking any of this could happen a year ago? Because he was splitting time with another running back, and he said, absolutely not. But, the other running back got hurt. He got his chance, and then he really shined in some camps, and he's got about between 12 to 15 offers right now, and he just got an offer from Ohio State. Texas has offered him. Miami has offered him. He's going big time right now. He's only a junior, and he doesn't touch the ball a lot, but when he does, he makes stuff happen. Whether that's enough to carry Veterans Memorial to a long playoff run, I don't know. But he's definitely, if he's not the most exciting offensive player to watch, he's one of them. And the fact that he's going to be back next year, I think, just bodes well for all the San Antonio football fans.
Absolutely. And finally, we've got to ask you, if I know that the 210 is just chock full of great places to eat, but if you had to pick one, and you're allowed to pick whatever place that you get your Cowboys Good Luck breakfast from, I don't care. Where is the place that we need to go in the 210? We might just join you one day for the Cowboys breakfast thing, because we need all the luck we can get.
Well, we really do. I probably needed 2 bowls. Well, okay. So whenever someone asks me that, as you know, I'm from the Valley, so I always say, get in the car and drive south for 3.5 hours. But if you can't do that, my favorite place to go, and again, it's not the best. I don't know if it's the best one, but it's my favorite one. It's a place called Oblate Cafe. It's just north of downtown. It's over by Lee, Edison area. It's got the best food. It's the best Mexican food that I've tasted here in San Antonio. And Tom Orsborn, who covers Spurs for us, he used to live in that neighborhood. He's the one who suggested it to me. And I used to live closer to there. I'd go there more. I don't go there as often anymore, but it's a great place, and that's the one I always recommend. There's also a couple of other places that are not Mexican food, but they're in the downtown area. There's a place called Guillermo's, which is kind of an Italian restaurant, but it's also got great burgers. And there's also one called Good Time Charlie's, which has kind of got a variety of food, and it's really good. It's on Broadway. It's north of downtown. So those are the ones that I recommend. So, and every time that I have recommended and people have gone, they've told me, yeah, good call on that. So,
look at that. Spurs fans making good recommendations. You love to see it. He's David Hinojosa, sports writer for the San Antonio Express News and our real good pal here at Dave Campbell's Texas Football. But David, we really appreciate you hopping on, and best of luck. We'll hopefully be seeing you around come playoff time.
Well, I appreciate you. Thank you for having me on.
There he goes, David Hinojosa of the San Antonio Express News. Like I said, our good buddy. We absolutely love him up here at Dave Campbell's Texas Football. No doubt about it. So there was no question we were going to have him on, and appreciate him hopping on WTF. All right, so there is David's take on what's happening down there in the 210. Up next, what we like to do is go through some regional breakdowns. We're going to go ahead and we will tell you the ranked teams in San Antonio, and then we will tell you the highest computer rated team in the South Texas region. Like we mentioned, obviously we talked to David, a lot of San Antonio based information there, but we are also talking about the South Texas region, which is basically all of Laredo, is where we have that. And the surrounding Laredo teams, a lot of crossover, but there are no ranked teams in South Texas. So we'll tell you the computer rated teams. We will start off with 6A out of our ranked teams in the San Antonio region. Number 8, Cibolo Steel. The Knights are off to a 7-0 start, 2-0 in district. Coach David Sinez is looking like old school Cibolo Steel. So we'll talk a lot about them coming up. Number 50 is San Antonio Brennan. You heard David say it. Those are probably the 2 best teams in the San Antonio region by a substantial amount. And we'll see where they end up in the playoffs, but it looks like that Region 4, if they go Division 1, could be looking pretty rough with Lake Travis and Austin Westlake looming in the background there, but that's nothing that these teams aren't used to, so maybe this could be the year. Going down to 5A Division 2, number 8, the San Antonio Alamo Heights Mules with Coach Ron Rittman. They lost to Seguin in week 1, but they have won all of their games since. A young team, but man, they can out-athlete you. So good things happening down there for the Mules. Moving down in to 4A Division 2. Here's where things get a little interesting in the way that we divide the state up. So we divide the state up into 21 different regions. I understand that you could technically put a lot of these teams maybe in a different region, but the way that we have it broken up, this is where we think that they fit best. Cuero and Shiner are both 2 of those teams that are really on the outskirts, but also kind of out in their own little plane, so it's hard to put them in other places. But in 4A Division II, the Gobblers have been on an absolute terror at number 3 under first-year head coach Jared Feacock. They lost to Cal Allen in week 4, which was an unbelievable game. We've talked a lot about Cal Allen on this show down in the Coastal Bend area. But their running back Tyson Williams has been just running over fools. So good things coming from the Gobblers. In 3A Division II, you have the number 7 ranked Poth Pirates, Coach Jeff Luna and his unbelievable defense carrying the way. Their only loss coming from Shiner, actually 2A Division I Shiner in week 3 of the season. But this Poth defense is only allowing 6 points per game. I think
wild.
22 of those points came from that Shiner game.
Yeah.
Other than that, I mean, it's been like, I think they've let up like 6 points in one other game. So
Crazy.
keep an eye out for the Pirates defense. And then of course 2A Division 1 number 4, the Shiner Comanches, the reigning 2A Division 1 state champs. We will talk about them a little bit later. They do have one loss of the year that came in week 1 against 3A Division 1 Hallettsville. We kind of threw dirt on them for a second, and it's just because this is a team that we never see lose. So there you go. Those are the highest ranked teams. Those are all state ranked teams in the San Antonio area. Let's go ahead and transition over into the highest computer rated teams in the South Texas region. So you'll see the map switched. We are headed down to that greater Laredo area. Let me pull this up real fast to make sure that I am saying this correctly. But we have how many teams in the South Texas region? I think it's 23, but I don't want to get that wrong.
I didn't count them up just because there were so many San Antonio teams, so I didn't end up counting.
Yeah, so there's 74 teams in the San Antonio region. 6 of them are ranked.
Gotcha.
In the South Texas region, we only have 23 teams.
Gotcha. Okay.
None of them are ranked. So what we did was the computer puts a rating, the Unfeeling Robot puts a rating, and these are the top 3 computer rated teams. You have Eagle Pass, Laredo United South, and Laredo United. Eagle Pass is 7-0. They're the only undefeated team there. Laredo United South is 6-1. Their only loss of the season coming from Cibolo Steel. Laredo United is 6-1 currently. Their only loss coming from Brennan. Yes, that's correct. Because then Brennan's only loss is from Steel. So it's kind of been
it's
this
a big
little
circle.
Yeah, it's like this continuous cycle of them just absolutely beating the hell out of each other. But I'll go ahead and say this to focus on the South Texas region a little bit. According to our very own Matt Stepp, our Texas High School Football Insider does do playoff projections, and they are subscriber-based. So if you would like to see full playoff projections, texasfootball.com/subscribe, become a subscriber, and you can see all of this. But we'll give you a little teaser, a little appetizer, if you will, some escargot down in South Texas. Right now, Stepp has both Laredo United South and Laredo United projected to go 6A D1. He has Laredo United set up to likely be playing Brennan in week 1.
Yeah.
Laredo United South to be playing Brennan, and then Laredo United to be playing San Antonio Taft. Brennan is 6-1, Taft is 6-1. So that will be a very, very tough stretch for the South Texas teams, but those aren't set in stone games yet. That could change. But they will get tested straight out of the gate. There is no doubt about that. So there's kind of the focus there on the South Texas teams that we think have a chance to make a little bit of noise heading into the playoffs. Now, those are the teams to focus on. We head over to our concierge of vibes, Miss Mallory Hartley, to break down some players that you want to watch in both the San Antonio and South Texas regions.
Yeah, let's go ahead and get right into it. Starting off in 6A. Converse Judson defensive end Johnny Bowens. I actually got to see this guy in person because I went to the Judson and Westlake game.
Oh, you did?
In, I think it was week 2 or 3 of the season. So
yeah, because that was before the UTSA game, right?
Yep. Yeah, so it must have been week
3 of high school.
3, yes.
No,
week 2.
Week 2.
Week 2 of high school because it was week 1 of college football.
Even
Dude,
though you went to a
so
week
confusing.
0. The math don't be mathin'.
It doesn't add up. It doesn't add up to me. But this guy, definitely one of the best defensive linemen in the state. He stands at 6'2" and weighs 270 pounds. He's a guy that's just able to spot holes in the line and just cause a bunch of chaos in that backfield. And along with that, he's fast and chases down the ball wherever it is on the field. He is truly a quarterback's worst nightmare. He was actually originally committed to Texas A&M. He decommitted from the Aggies back in July of this year, but still holds an offer from Oregon, OU, Baylor, and much, much more.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that he stuck out to you against a Westlake offensive line says enough.
Yeah.
Like, the kid is good. If you can compete against a Westlake offensive line, you can go play D1 football.
Yeah, absolutely.
Plain and simple.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Moving on down to San Antonio Brennan, safety Tyler Turner. You've already heard David's take on him. He's pretty dang good. He's the number 2 safety in Texas. Stands at 6 foot, weighs 180 pounds, and man, this dude is really, really good. He shows range and versatility on the field, and I think his physicality allows him to outrun receivers and even step up and make some of those tackles at the line of scrimmage. He is verbally committed currently to Oregon, but still holds offers from Baylor, OU, and Texas. So.
Oregon knows a thing or two about defensive backs. So I like his he's only at 180 right now, so I would say, but I like his frame to be able to, once he gets on like a really good, college level D1 workout regimen, I think that he's got a frame that can add some weight to that, because he's gonna have to add a little bit of weight.
Yeah, and that'll happen, naturally when they come to college and they get on that strict regimen of eating 4 meals a day.
Yeah.
So that'll just come with time as he gets into the upper level. Moving down to Cibolo Steel linebacker Mekhi Williams, one of the best linebackers in the San Antonio region, no doubt about that. He recorded 92 tackles and 7 tackles for a loss and 2 sacks already this season, and he has the speed and physicality to stop plays from gaining any sort of momentum, often making tackles behind or at the line of scrimmage. And he is committed to play for the Green Wave of Tulane. You might be thinking, who is Tulane? But Tulane, if you look back at this week at the AP Top 25 poll, Tulane comes in at number 25, and let me tell you, one of the best defenses, regardless of Power 5, G5 level, one of the best defenses in this country. So great pick by Mekhi Williams.
Oh, yeah. No, I love that fit. Like, I really like the fit of him going there. I think that's a really good get for a Tulane team to come into Texas and kind of secure that, because you're also going up against Texas State is right there. UTSA is right there. That's a really good get to come into San Antonio and be able to grab Williams.
Yeah, and it seems like to me that there's just so much defensive power in the San Antonio area. So good for Tulane to keep an eye on that. And Oregon, too. I mean, these defensive powerhouse college teams know where to look when it comes to defensive players, and that's probably in the San Antonio region. Moving on down to Eagle Pass running back Thomas Mares. He has been absolutely spectacular this season, and one of the biggest reasons why this Eagle Pass team is 7-0 currently. Through 7 games, he's put up 977 rushing yards off 110 carries and 8 touchdowns. And through the air, he's caught 10 passes, recording 102 yards and 1 touchdown. He actually does it all. And I compare him to a brick wall, especially at the running back position. He's got really good size, standing at 5'8", weighing 170 pounds, but it's literally all pure muscle. His Huddle actually says that he squats 404 pounds on the daily, so he's got a lot of power behind his run.
Well, go ahead.
No, go for it.
I was going to say, you look at the talent he's going to be going up against in San Antonio. A lot of times the San Antonio teams are just they're bigger than those South Texas teams. So having a, as you said, brick wall to be able to really test these massive San Antonio defensive lines, that will pay a lot of dividends for Eagle Pass when it looks into playoff projections.
Right. And to kind of visualize this a little bit, obviously on a much bigger scale, but I kind of think of him as like a Jalen Hurts, quarterback for the Eagles. I mean, he's not very tall and he's not very fast, but he's a brick wall.
Yeah.
Jalen Hurts squats 600 pounds. And so when you've got that running at you, how are you going to bring that down? So definitely keep an eye out on Eagle Pass running back Thomas Mares. 2 more to go. Let's highlight Cuero linebacker Sean Burks. He's got pretty good size, standing at 5'11", weighing 205 pounds. He's already recorded 102 total tackles, 1 sack, 1 interception, and 2 forced fumbles on the season. And one of his strengths, I think, as a linebacker is definitely his speed and just his ability to get in the backfield. He recorded 6 sacks last season, so definitely only 1 this year, 6 last year, but definitely one of his strengths. And I think if he was a little bit bigger, man, I'd put him on the line as an edge rusher.
No kidding. Yeah, he has that. When you think about Gobbler football, he has been the name to know for a couple of years now. I mean, just stout. He doesn't let anybody get past him. He is. Burks is a hell of a player.
Yes,
if you've watched any Cuero football, you know that.
He stands out for sure. And let's round it all out. You are no stranger to this guy, Shiner athlete Dalton Brooks, the 6'1", 187-pound number 1 athlete in the state, is lean and certainly athletic. Let's throw it back to the 2021 2A Division I state championship where Dalton and his brother Doug Brooks bullied the absolute heck out of that Holly team on both sides of the ball with a dominant 47-12 win. Those 2 guys definitely had a lot to say about that. Dalton, however, is as versatile as they come, playing in all 3 phases of the game. He just outruns, out-physicals, and just outdoes every single opponent at that 2A level, and even at the 3A level, too. He's taken snaps at multiple skill positions in the secondary and definitely in the return game. Like, this dude actually does it all and to me performs at the highest level that there is.
Absolutely. When I was there to watch Shiner or Furio in the regional finals last year, Coach Sark was standing like 5 feet from me watching him. You know, it's like he is that guy.
Yeah.
Everyone knows that. He is that guy.
And Texas did lose out to him. He is committed to play at Texas A&M, but his cousin Jonathan Brooks committed to play at Texas. So maybe we'll see a little bit of cousin-to-cousin play here in the next couple of years.
Yeah, Jonathan's gotten some good touches.
Yeah, he has.
Especially last year.
Yeah, I think he actually got in the game against OU this year. So good for him. But there you go. There are some stellar players, lots of good defensive players to watch in the San Antonio region.
All right, you know what time it is.
Is it time? It is time
for Stonks.
Always try your hand of songs.
Well, third, you couldn't see the stonks, but that's okay.
Don't worry, we've got plenty of stonks.
We still got lots of stonks.
This is airing during Texas Football Today's normal time, so if you're new here, we do a Stonks report where we take a couple of teams from the regions that we've been talking about, San Antonio and South Texas, and we tell you, are the Stonks trending up, are the Stonks trending down, and we will start off with a team that the Stonks are up. We're talking about the Cibolo Steel Knights. We've talked about it a lot this episode, and David talked a lot about it, but Steel is a perennial powerhouse down there in the San Antonio area, but there was a time when Steel was getting after people. Kind of early 2000s, that's when they really had their heyday, and Coach David Sinez has brought them back to that point. This is a team that from the get-go this season when they played Brennan in the KSAT Pigskin Classic, that game went into overtime. It was unbelievable. They didn't finish till like 11:30 at night, and those were the 2 best teams in San Antonio going head-to-head in week 1, and Steel had their number. And I think that the thing about Steel right now is the fact that defense looks like an old-school Steel team. They are massive. Like, Ish and I were standing down on the sideline, and I mean, Ish isn't like a small guy. He's 6 foot and whatever, and it was like we looked like pipsqueaks next to these players. They're massive.
There is a reason why 5 out of the 6 players to watch were all defensive players in the San Antonio region, because they're so big. I think in terms of district play, I think Stonks are absolutely up for Cibolo Steel. Let's see who they have next. They've got San Antonio East Central coming up this week. Then they go and play at Converse Judson, which will probably be a really good test to them, but I still think that Judson is a little bit down from they
They're still-
usually
yeah, they're
are. They're
finding
still
their
really
feeding.
good, but they're a little bit down from
Footing.
what they usually are. And then they'll round it all out with Schertz Clemens. So I think potentially they could run away with that district title being 10-0 heading into the playoffs.
Yeah, I don't think that there's any reason that they should lose the rest of this season. I really don't.
No.
I don't think that the competition is there. I mean, you mentioned Mekhi Williams. He's been outstanding. Their running back, Jaden Bailey, has been absolutely outstanding on the offensive side of the ball. But this looks like a vintage Cibolo Steel team that is
Right.
big. They will punch you in the mouth, and
Hard-nosed, yeah.
they're ready to go. I cannot remember in the playoff projections here. I think I can pull this up real fast to see who Step thinks that they will be.
San Antonio Johnson, right?
Yes, you're
Yeah.
correct. That I forgot about that.
Yeah. Who's another? Yeah, they are currently projected in Steps projections. Little bit of a sneak peek here. Projected to play San Antonio Johnson in the first round of the playoffs, which of course is another one of our Stonks teams. So stay tuned for that.
So we'll get right back to that conversation. Let's go to a different conversation real fast on Stonks, and let's talk about the Shiner Comanches. Now, it's funny because we've told you regions are perfectly fine being debated. This is just one of those kind of outliers that we felt fits best in the San Antonio region. And the reason that we didn't talk to David Hinojosa about it at all from the San Antonio Express News is they don't consider it part of their region that they watch out for. So we're going to talk a little bit about it. Of course, the Shiner Comanches, the reigning 2A Division I state champs, Stonks are just always up.
They're always up.
They're always up. I mean, Daniel Boddicker is he's got to be close to, I think he only has 2 losses at his entire time at Shiner. Maybe 3 now with that Hallettsville loss.
Yeah.
So this is a program that has been nothing but consistent. The fun part about it is now them and Refugio, who we're so used to seeing in the regional finals. We always call it Shiner Refugio week. Now it's likely we get 2 Shiner Refugio weeks, and that's actually this week.
Yeah.
So in the unbelievable slate of high school football this week, Shiner Refugio going off in a district battle. Tepper and I were talking about it, and this feels like one of those games that we are not going to see both of these teams show their entire cards because
they're going to meet again.
Yeah, the likelihood of anyone stopping even one of them in Region 4 is just, it's not going to happen.
Right. So
it can, but
right. I don't think going into this game we should be like, okay, we're going to tell a lot about both teams at the end of this game, whether who wins or not. Because like you said, neither team is going to be showing all their cards because it's likely that they're going to probably meet up again later down in the playoff path.
Now, I will say that if one team goes out there, if Shiner was to go out there and just absolutely wreck Refugio, then it's like,
it's obvious that Shiner's probably pretty dang good.
But if this game is anywhere close to close, then it's like, there's still a lot that week in the regional finals will be just as fun. But if you want to talk about what I think about Stonks going up or down in the entire scheme of thing as to will they repeat, that's where I'm going to go ahead and throw it out there. And I think that you can have a very healthy debate about this. I think this could be the year for Timpson.
Yeah, I was just,
to get Shiner or Refugio. And I don't say that lightly because Terry Bussey is just a junior. So if you're going to tell me that they're not the favorite, that they won't be the number 1 team coming into the year next year, regardless of who regardless of who wins the championship this year, Timpson is coming out of Region 3. They should run Region 3. We should absolutely be seeing them in a state semifinal. Who will we see them against, Shiner or Refugio? We don't know. But regardless, I think that next year, Timpson should be the clear-cut favorite, that they should go wire to wire, number 1 to number 1 to win the state championship. I want to see that game this year because if Shiner was to make it, they still have Dalton Brooks.
Yes.
To see a senior Dalton Brooks go up against a junior in Terry Bussey when they're more singular now because they don't have Doug Brooks. Terry Bussey competed with him and he was only a sophomore and there was 2 of them.
Right.
There were 2 of the Brooks brothers.
Right.
I want to go out on a limb and I am going to say right now technically it's October 18th. This is airing on October 20th. Take it as you will. I think this could be the year that we see Timpson do it against competition that is 2 rock fights, 2 rhinos, 2 whatever you want to call it, going at one another. So Stonks could be down.
Right. And on kind of going off on a Timpson tangent here, I think that, if it's not going to be this year, it's going to be next year.
I think it's just a layup for them next year. Terry Bussey's a senior. If they can keep everyone healthy, I just think that next year is going to be a lot like a more boring year in 2A Division I than we're used to seeing. I think with Dalton Brooks, with Refugio being as good as they always are, with Terry Bussey, I want to see the head-to-head of Dalton Brooks and Terry Bussey, and I just want it to be a fireworks factory. That's all I want.
Yeah, and I think it will be. Yeah, I absolutely think it will be.
So there's my long-winded rant on I need to see Terry Bussey and Dalton Brooks go head-to-head one last time to make my heart happy.
The only bad thing about that is it won't be at a state championship. Which will be frustrating. It'll be state semifinal week, but it's still pretty good. It'll still be a good game.
Absolutely. And I mean, honest to God, it's almost
that
even
may be
better.
The state championship, basically.
Right. I mean, that's definitely a state championship caliber thing. But you look on the other side of the bracket. I mean, Hawley is doing crazy things. Albany is doing crazy things. So it's almost like Porque no los dos. If we can go ahead and get that one, and we can get a good state championship game, let's party.
Exactly.
All right, and then finally, going back to what we were talking about beforehand, I probably should have switched those two, but
that's okay.
I got to go off on my Shiner rant, so that was fun. San Antonio Johnson. So we mentioned them. They're a 4-3 team, and you might be going, why in the world are you talking about that? Stonks for this season are probably null and void. If they go on and they end up playing Cibolo Steel like Steps projecting in the first round of the playoffs, I'm sorry. I don't think that they're going to make it very far in the playoffs if that's their first matchup. I think that Steel is a better team that will just do that. Mm-hmm. What I wanted to talk about with Johnson, we've talked about it a lot if you listen to TFT or anything else or follow any of us on social media. Their quarterback, Ty Hawkins, he's only a sophomore, and this kid is electric. We saw him play for the first game of the season, and it was so much so that Gabe Brooks, our recruiting buddy from 247, turns and was like, all right, this kid might get a profile, you know? And if Gabe Brooks is saying that carries some weight. Because it's one thing for Ish and Step and I to go, or even just Ish and I to go like, oh, that kid's awesome. You know, for Gabe, who's actually looking at recruiting
for a living,
stuff, you know, and looking at track times and all that stuff, that meant a lot. But I think what TP Miller has done at Johnson, again, he was a coordinator under Mark Soto when Soto was at Johnson, and then got promoted when Soto left for Judson. I think he is a hell of a coach. I think he's going to put together a hell of a program there. I think that Jaguar fans need to go, hey, you know what? The future is very, very bright for this program. So if you want to talk about stonks for this year, I think they did fine in their opening season. You know, they're still figuring some out, but this is a very, very young team who I think if the train continues, if people can stay healthy, we'll be talking about them the same way that we're talking about Brennan and Steele and all that in the next 2 years.
Yeah. I think they got to win out, I think, to make the playoffs. They're currently sitting in, I think, 4th place in District 28 6A, but they've got 3 of the lower half teams left in that district to play, so they should easily go 3-0 to close out the season and then sneak into the playoffs, which, like we just said, probably will meet Cibolo Steel in that first game.
Yeah, get battle tested. You know, go out there, but really
make the playoffs. I think that's a good season defining moment. Like, hey, we may not get past the first round, but let's at least make it to the playoffs and give it all we got in that first round.
Right, and to that, all of that young talent that they have, being able to, even if you go out there and get stopped by Cibolo Steel, it's like being able to have that experience is going to pay dividends in the future. So there you go. There are some stonks in the San Antonio, South Texas region. So yeah, if you tuned in and this was your first time watching WTF, because again, we're airing it during normal TFT time, please, if you liked it, if you enjoyed it, come join us every single Thursday at 2. If you're not able to watch it live, it is available on any podcast vendor, so get those download numbers going. We're trying to contest with the men of this office, so show some support, listen to WTF, but I think that'll do it for us. I'm somewhere down in the valley stuffing my face with Mexican food when this is airing. You're here running the show, so shout out you for being the actual grinder here.
Yeah, I'll be here for you guys. I might like some comments or something. Maybe comment back if you've got any questions about our show or whatever is on your mind. I may respond to you. So we'll see.
So yeah, appreciate our guest David Hinojosa from the San Antonio Express News. Give him a follow at Hinojosa_David on Twitter. But we'll be back to normal programming next week, Thursday at 2. We'll see you then. Bye, dorks.